You're insane, Margot. Beatrice stared at her friend over a cup of reheated coffee, the kind of diner coffee that costs $2 and tastes like a second chance. Margot had just shown her the ad on her phone. Housekeeper wanted. Salary, $15,000 month. Requirements, patience of a saint and emotional armor that's bulletproof. Okay, the armor part wasn't actually written, but it should have been. $15,000, B. Margot pushed the phone forward like presenting evidence in court. 15,000. To work for Dashiell Hargrave. Beatrice pronounced the name like spitting out an olive pit. The man who made 7 housekeepers quit in 2 months. Technically, it was 9. Margot! Look, I know what you're going to say. Margot raised her hands in preemptive surrender. That he's known as the tyrant of Fifth Avenue. Read that the last employee left crying and swore she'd sue him for emotional distress. That they say he has a frame in the living room just to hang resignation letters like trophies. Wait, is that true? I don't know, but you get my point. Margot sighed, and there was something desperate there that made Beatrice really pay attention. B, I need this money. My dad's surgery is scheduled for 3 months from now. Insurance covered half, and half of a heart surgery is still the price of a decent car. And there it was. The naked, raw, terrifying truth that transformed a ridiculous ad into a lifeline. Beatrice had known Margot since their sophomore year of college, when they'd shared an apartment the size of a shoebox and dreams the size of Everest. Margot, curly hair always pulled into a rebellious bun, honey-colored eyes that conveyed an almost frightening determination, 5'5" of pure stubbornness, was the type who would face a dragon in flip-flops if necessary. Apparently, today the dragon wore Italian suits and lived in a mansion. Do you really think you'll last more than 3 days? Beatrice asked, because she had to. Margot smiled. That crooked smile that usually preceded her worst ideas. B, I was a nanny for triplets who put hot sauce in my shampoo. I worked at a call center where people cursed at me in 3 different languages. I survived Mauricio. Ah yes, Mauricio. The ex-boyfriend who thought washing dishes was communist propaganda and was genuinely surprised when she dumped him. Mauricio doesn't count as preparation for anything, Beatrice muttered. And there's an interview? Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Margot swallowed the rest of her cold coffee. The employment agency said he interviews personally, wants to look the victim in the eye according to the receptionist. She said victim? Candidate, but the tone implied victim. The Hargrave mansion wasn't just big. It was an architectural insult to modesty. 3 stories of neoclassical style that screamed, I have money and I want you to know it. With white columns, immense windows, and a garden that probably had its own gardener. Maybe 3. Margot adjusted her blazer, bought on a flash sale, but it fit perfectly, and rang the doorbell. A classical melody echoed inside, because of course even the doorbell was pretentious. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 60s, grey hair pulled into an impeccable bun, the expression of someone who'd seen everything and been impressed by nothing. Margot Sinclair? Yes, ma'am. Helena. I'm the only staff member left here besides the driver and the gardener who are smart enough to never enter the house. She stepped aside. Come in quickly. He hates drafts. The interior was exactly what Margot expected. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork on the walls that probably cost more than her entire college tuition. Everything in shades of white, black, and gray. No color, no warmth, no soul. He's in the study, Helena informed her, guiding her down a hallway that seemed endless. A few rules. Don't interrupt. Don't ask stupid questions. Don't cry. I'm sorry, what? The last one cried. He hated it. Helena stopped before a carved mahogany door. And for God's sake, if he offers you water, accept it. It's a test. Before Margot could ask what kind of psychopath test involved water, Helena knocked on the door. Come in. The voice was deep, cutting. The kind of voice that signed pink slips without blinking. The study was vast, dominated by an absurd desk and shelves filled with books that looked like they'd never been touched. And behind the desk, illuminated by light filtered through heavy curtains, was him. Dashiell Hargrave was 36 according to Forbes magazine. Margot had done her homework. Heir to a real estate empire, CEO of Hargrave Holdings, reluctant philanthropist, and apparently public enemy number one of human kindness. He was also, and Margot hated her brain for noticing this, absurdly handsome. Perfectly styled black hair, a jawline that could cut glass, eyes of a glacial blue that probably made grown executives tremble in meetings. He wore a dark gray sweater, because of course cruel millionaires wore expensive sweaters even at home, that somehow made him look simultaneously casual and terrifying. Sit. He didn't even look up from some papers. Margot sat. Helena silently evaporated. Silence. More silence. Mr. Hargrave, you interrupted my thought. He finally looked up, and those blue eyes were exactly as cold as Margot had imagined. Already off to a bad start. You told me to sit. I figured it was to talk, not for a staring contest. The words came out before she could filter them. Margot felt her blood freeze. Idiot. 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 Dashiell blinked. Once, slowly. Then something tiny changed at the corner of his mouth. It wasn't a smile. Maybe it was the ancestral ghost of where a smile would exist in a normal person. Helena said you wouldn't cry. Seems she was right. He interlaced his fingers. Margot Sinclair, 28 years old. Business administration degree. Experience as nanny, receptionist, customer service, event coordinator. Each word carried silent judgment. Nothing that qualifies you for this job. Nothing on my resume, Margot corrected, except the part where each of those jobs required dealing with difficult people. Difficult people? 5-year-old triplets? Furious customers? Brides in crisis? I'd say I'm prepared. You compared me to a hysterical bride. I compared you to several situations that require patience, diplomacy, and the ability not to strangle anyone. Another silence. Dashiell tilted his head, studying her like she was a particularly irritating equation. Why do you want this job? The question came low, but there was something sharp in it. A challenge. Margot could lie. Should lie. Make up something about growth opportunity or admiration for the property. Because it pays $15,000, she said simply. And my father needs heart surgery. Dashiell didn't respond for 3 full seconds. Honesty. The word sounded almost like an accusation. How refreshing and completely useless. He picked up a glass of water from the desk and extended it to her. Drink. Margot remembered Helena's warning. It's a test. She accepted the glass, maintained eye contact, and drank. The water was perfect. Ice cold, filtered, probably more expensive than water had any right to be. Most people hesitate, Dashiell commented. Think it might be poisoned or a trick. If you wanted to kill me, there are more efficient methods than calling me in for an interview. True. He took the glass back. The job, manage this house, coordinate suppliers, maintenance, domestic schedule. Ensure I never have to think about anything related to this property. Start at 6 a.m., work until whenever necessary. No days off the first week. And the rules? Don't bother me with trivialities. Don't touch my things. Don't try to talk to me if I'm working, reading, or breathing. A pause. And don't get attached. No one stays.
And because you fire them? Or because they run away?
Margot should get up and leave. Any sensible person would. But she thought about her father, the surgery, the $15,000. When do I start? For the first time, Dashiell Hargrave, it was terrible. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Don't be late. He returned to his papers, clearly dismayed. Oh, and Margot? She stopped at the door. Helena said you'd last a week. I bet 3 days. Those blue eyes met. Don't disappoint me. Margot left the mansion with a new job and the growing certainty that she'd just signed a contract with the devil. A very well-dressed devil. Margot arrived at 5:47 a.m. because if Dashiell Hargrave wanted punctuality, she'd give him obsessive punctuality. Helena opened the door wearing the same impeccable bun and an expression that might have been approval. Hard to tell. "You came back," the older woman observed, stepping aside. "The devil's money spends just as well as anyone else's." That earned her something that could generously be called a smile. "Smart girl. Coffee's in the kitchen. You'll need it." The kitchen was a cathedral of stainless steel and marble that probably cost more than most people's houses. Margot poured herself a cup of coffee that tasted like it had been blessed by caffeinated angels and studied the folder Helena had left on the counter. Daily schedule was written on top in pristine handwriting. 6 a.m., Mr. Hargrave's breakfast. Black coffee, 2 eggs, over easy, not scrambled. Whole wheat toast, lightly toasted, butter on the side. Served in the sunroom. 6:45 a.m., morning briefing. He'll tell you what he needs. Do not improvise. 7:30 a.m. He leaves for the office. Your real work begins. Margot flipped through pages of instructions. Approved vendors, emergency contacts, a list of things that would displease Mr. Hargrave that was disturbingly long. Apparently he displeased easily. At exactly 6:09 a.m., she carried the breakfast tray to the sunroom, a glass-enclosed space overlooking the garden that somehow managed to feel cold despite the morning light. Dashiell sat reading the Wall Street Journal, already dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He didn't look up. "On the table," he said flatly. Margot set the tray down with perhaps more force than necessary. The coffee cup rattled slightly. His eyes flicked up. "Problem?" "Not at all, sir." The sir came out with just enough edge to be noticeable. "The eggs are over easy?" "As commanded." "Toast?" "Lightly toasted, butter on the side, sacrificial lamb optional, but not included." This time his gaze lingered. "You have a mouth on you. You hired me for my organizational skills, not my silence. I'm beginning to question that decision." But he picked up his fork, which she took as dismissal enough. Margot turned to leave. "The coffee's cold." She froze. Turned slowly. "I made it 4 minutes ago." "It's cold." He pushed the cup toward her without looking away from his newspaper. "Remake it." Every cell in Margot's body screamed to throw the coffee in his absurdly perfect face. Instead, she picked up the cup, it was not cold, and walked back to the kitchen with her head high. Helena was waiting, sympathy in her eyes. "He does this to everyone. The coffee's not cold. I know. He's testing me. Welcome to hell, dear." Helena patted her shoulder. "Make it fresh anyway. Add a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. He'll never admit it, but he likes it." Margot made the coffee, added the cinnamon, returned to the sunroom and placed it in front of Dashiell without a word. He took a sip, paused imperceptibly, took another. "Acceptable," he said. Margot had never wanted to hit someone with a newspaper more in her entire life. At 6:45, she stood in his study while he issued orders like a general preparing for war. "The Hendersons are coming for dinner Friday. Hire a chef, not Pierre. He talks too much. Not Gabriella. Her portions are too small. Someone competent and invisible." Margot scribbled notes. "The second-floor bathroom has a loose tile. Fix it. The dry cleaning should arrive today. Check every item. Last time they missed a button. My sister called yesterday. If she calls again, I'm not here. I'm never here. I've moved to Antarctica." That made Margot look up. "You have a sister?" Had this conversation been about my personal life? No, but then focus. He signed something without looking at her. "The car needs detailing. My watch is being serviced. Pick it up from Cartier on 5th Avenue before noon. And someone planted roses by the east entrance. I hate roses. Remove them." "What's wrong with roses?" Dashiell's pen stopped mid-signature. He looked at her like she'd asked why the sky was blue, and he had to explain atmospheric particle refraction to a toddler. They're cliché, high maintenance, and they die. His tone could freeze water. Much like optimism in most human relationships. Remove them. Got it. No roses. Probably no joy, laughter, or Christmas either? Christmas is pending review, he said, without missing a beat. Now, is there anything unclear about your instructions, or would you like to continue psychoanalyzing my gardening preferences? Margot bit her tongue so hard she tasted copper. Crystal clear, sir. Good. I'll be back at 7. Dinner at 7:30. Something edible. Surprise me. I didn't know cooking was part of it is now. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Oh, and Margot, your record is 27 hours. Try to beat it. He walked past her, leaving behind the scent of expensive cologne and pure distilled arrogance. The day was a blur of phone calls, contractors, and a battle with a particularly stubborn rosebush that left Margot with 3 thorns in her thumb and a vendetta against all flowering plants. By 7 p.m., she'd accomplished everything on the list and somehow prepared pasta primavera that didn't look completely disastrous. She'd found Helena's recipe box with a note for emergencies and impossible bosses and followed instructions like her life depended on it, because her paycheck definitely did. At 7:32, Dashiell walked into the dining room. He looked at the set table, the plated food, and then at Margot with something that might have been surprise if his face did emotions. He sat, took a bite, chewed slowly. The silence was agonizing. He began. Margot held her breath. Not terrible. High praise from the tyrant of Fifth Avenue, apparently. The roses are gone, she reported. Tile fixed. Dry cleaning perfect. Chef hired for Friday. Marcus Chen. Came highly recommended. Doesn't talk much. Your watch will be ready tomorrow. And your sister called. I told her you'd moved to Antarctica. She said that's the 3rd continent this month, and she's impressed by your commitment to avoidance. Dashiell's fork paused halfway to his mouth. You spoke to Juliet? She's persistent. Also hilarious. I like her. Of course you do. He set down his fork with deliberate care. Let me be extraordinarily clear, Miss Sinclair. You work for me, not with me, not as my friend, confidant, or therapist. You're paid to manage my house, not my life. Understood. Margot met his icy glare without flinching. But for the record, she really does seem to care about you. For the record, Dashiell said softly, dangerously, that's none of your concern. They stared at each other across the absurd dining table, tension crackling like static electricity. Finally, Margot nodded. Will there be anything else, Mr. Hargrave? Yes. He stood. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Don't be late. As she gathered her things to leave, Helena appeared with an envelope. Your first week's salary in advance. He never does that. Margot opened it. $15,000. Her father's surgery fund just got a little bit closer to reality. Maybe she could survive Dashiell Hargrave after all, even if it killed her. Day 4. Margot had officially outlasted Dashiell's prediction, and the satisfaction was delicious. She'd just finished coordinating the dinner party arrangements when she heard the crash. It came from upstairs, Dashiell's private floor, the one place Helena had warned her never to enter uninvited. He values his privacy like a dragon values gold, she'd said, and he's just as likely to breathe fire if you intrude. Another crash, then silence. Margot stood at the bottom of the stairs, warring with herself. Not your business. Stay out of it. But what if he was hurt? He's probably just throwing expensive objects at the wall for fun. Rich people do that. A third sound, this one distinctly like breaking glass. Oh, for God's sake, Margot muttered, and climbed the stairs. The hallway was darker than the rest of the house, lined with closed doors like secrets. One stood ajar, light spilling out. She knocked. Mr. Hargrave? No answer. She pushed the door open. The room was clearly his bedroom. Massive bed with black silk sheets, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than a yacht. And in the center of it all stood Dashiell, surrounded by shattered picture frames, his hand bleeding. I told you never to come up here. His voice was quiet, dangerous. I heard crashing. You thought wrong. He didn't look at her, just stared at the broken glass. Leave. Margot should have. Every survival instinct screamed at her to turn around and pretend this never happened. Instead, she saw what he'd been holding, a photograph, now cracked. A younger Dashiell with a woman, beautiful, laughing, her arm around him. He was smiling in the picture. Actually smiling like he'd forgotten he owned that particular facial expression. Your hand is bleeding, Margot said quietly. I'm aware. Let me, Miss Sinclair. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were arctic. When I give you an instruction, I expect obedience, not negotiation. Leave, now. No. The word hung in the air like a grenade. Dashiell's jaw tightened. Excuse me? You heard me. Margot crossed her arms. You can fire me, you can yell at me, but I'm not leaving you here bleeding and surrounded by broken glass. So either you let me help, or we both stand here in stubborn silence until you pass out from blood loss. For 10 seconds, he just stared at her. Then, shockingly, he laughed. It was bitter and short, but it was a laugh. You're insane. I've been told. She gestured to his hand. First aid kit? He sighed, defeated. Bathroom, under the sink. 5 minutes later, Margot was carefully extracting glass from his palm while he sat on the edge of his bed, silent and tense as a wire. This might sting, she warned, dabbing antiseptic. He didn't even flinch. Who was she? Margot asked before she could stop herself. None of your business. Fair enough. She wrapped gauze around his hand with practiced efficiency. Thank you, years of triplet-related injuries. But for what it's worth, she looked like she made you happy. That's worth something. Worth something, he repeated hollowly. She's dead. 3 years ago. Car accident. The words came out flat, factual. And before you offer condolences dripping with pity, save them. I don't want them. Margot secured the bandage. I wasn't going to offer condolences. No? No. I was going to say that grief doesn't have an expiration date, and throwing things probably feels better than crying. But it's hell on your floors. He stared at her. Then, impossibly, the corner of his mouth twitched. You're infuriating. So I've been told. She stood, surveying the damage. I'll clean this up. You don't have to. Part of the job description, isn't it? Managing the house. She began carefully picking up glass shards. Besides, I'm already here. Might as well make myself useful. Dashiell watched her work in silence. Finally, he spoke. Her name was Victoria. We were engaged. Margot paused but didn't look up, giving him space to talk, or not. Everyone said I changed after she died, became cold, cruel. A pause. They're not wrong. It's easier than feeling everything all the time. Easier doesn't mean better. No, he agreed quietly, but it means survivable. Margot deposited the glass in the trash and turned to face him. For what it's worth, I don't think you're cruel. Difficult, yes. Absolutely impossible, definitely. But not cruel. You've worked for me for 4 days. Long enough to know the difference. She moved toward the door. Your hand should be fine. Change the bandage tomorrow. And maybe... She glanced at the broken frames. Maybe keep one photo out. Not hidden away. She was part of your life. That doesn't have to be a secret you bury. She left before he could respond, closing the door softly behind her. The next morning, Margot arrived to find Dashiell already in the sunroom. His breakfast sat untouched. The coffee's perfect temperature today, he said without looking up from his newspaper. I didn't change anything. I know. A pause. Thank you, for yesterday. Margot almost dropped the juice pitcher. Dashiell Hargrave just thanked her. The man who probably considered thank you a sign of weakness. You're welcome, she managed. Don't expect it to become a habit. Wouldn't dream of it, sir. As she turned to leave, he spoke again. Margot. First name. He'd used her first name. There's a gala next Saturday. Charity event. Black tie. I need a date. Her heart did something complicated. A date? Don't be ridiculous. An escort. Someone to stand beside me, look presentable, and prevent desperate socialites from cornering me by the champagne fountain. He finally looked at her. It pays extra. $2,000 for the evening. I don't have anything to wear to a... There's an account at Bergdorf's. Helena has the details. His tone returned to business. Consider it part of your duties. Managing my public image falls under household management. Does it, though? It does now. That ghost of a smile again. Unless you'd prefer I find someone else? Margot thought about her father's surgery fund. About the fact that Dashiell just showed her more of his real self than he probably had anyone in years. What time should I be ready? 7. And Margot? He returned to his newspaper. Try not to embarrass me. I'll do my best to match your level of charm and warmth, sir. She could have sworn she heard him chuckle as she left. That afternoon, Helena found her staring at the Bergdorf's business card. He's taking you to the gala. As an employee? Sure. Helena's smile was knowing. That's why he's taking you shopping at Bergdorf's instead of renting you a dress. Purely professional. It's not like that. Not yet. Helena patted her shoulder. But dear, I've worked for that man for 5 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looked at you yesterday. He was bleeding. He probably looked at me with irritation. No. Helena's eyes were gentle. He looked at you like maybe, just maybe. He remembered what it felt like to let someone in. Margot's heart did that complicated thing again. This was a job. Just a job. So why did it suddenly feel like something infinitely more dangerous? Margot had never owned a dress that cost more than $200. The midnight blue gown from Bergdorf's cost $3,500 and made her feel like she was wearing liquid starlight. You look like a princess, Helena said, adjusting the delicate silver necklace, also courtesy of Dashiell's account. A very nervous princess. I'm not nervous. Your hands are shaking. It's cold. It's 72 degrees. Helena smiled gently. It's okay to be nervous. It's just one evening. Just one evening, with Dashiell, at a gala filled with Manhattan's elite, pretending to be someone who belonged in his world. No pressure at all. At exactly 7 p.m. Margot descended the staircase in heels that were beautiful torture devices. Dashiell stood in the foyer checking his phone, wearing a tuxedo that should have been illegal. He looked up and froze. For 3 full seconds, Dashiell Hargrave, the man who conducted million-dollar negotiations without blinking, just stared at her. Will I embarrass you? Margot asked, aiming for light but landing somewhere near breathless. No. His voice was rough. He cleared his throat. You look acceptable. Acceptable. Wow. I'm swooning. Fine. You look beautiful. He said it like an accusation. Happy? Deliriously. But her heart was doing backflips. In the limousine, they sat in careful silence. Margot watched the city lights blur past, hyper-aware of how close he was, how his cologne filled the small space, how his leg was approximately 3 inches from hers. Rules for tonight, Dashiell said suddenly. Stay close. Smile. Make small talk if necessary. If anyone asks personal questions, deflect. Deflect how? You're resourceful. Figure it out. He adjusted his cufflinks. And if Vanessa Whitmore approaches, we're leaving immediately. Who's Vanessa Whitmore? A mistake from last year. His jaw tightened. She believes we had a connection. I believe she's delusional. Ah, an ex? A persistent inconvenience. The gala was held at the plaza, because of course it was. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, women dripping in diamonds, and men radiating wealth. Margot felt like an imposter in a beautiful disguise. Dashiell's hand found the small of her back. Breathe, he murmured near her ear. You belong here as much as any of them. I really don't. Neither do I. But we're excellent at pretending. He guided her into the ballroom. Follow my lead. The next hour was a masterclass in social warfare. Dashiell introduced her as Margot Sinclair, and always paused just long enough for people to make assumptions. Let them think what they wanted. It was brilliant and maddening. "So, how did you two meet?" asked a woman in emerald green, eyes sharp with curiosity. "She broke into my house," Dashiell said smoothly. Margot nearly choked on champagne. "I did not. Metaphorically speaking." His hand tightened slightly on her waist, a warning. "She stormed into my life uninvited and refused to leave." "How romantic," the woman cooed. "It was a job interview," Margot clarified. "Very unromantic. He was horrible. I was professional. You told me I'd last 3 days. You proved me wrong." He looked at her, and something in his eyes made her breath catch. "I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong." The woman wandered off, probably to spread gossip, and Margot turned to him. "You're enjoying this?" "Perhaps." The corner of his mouth lifted. "You're a surprisingly good actress." "Who says I'm acting?" Their eyes locked. The ballroom seemed to shrink until there was only him, only this moment, only the dangerous electricity crackling between them. "Dashiell!" They broke apart as a woman approached. Tall, blonde, smile like a knife. "Vanessa Whitmore," Margot presumed. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Vanessa's eyes raked over Margot dismissively. "And who's this?" "We were just leaving," Dashiell said coldly. "But the auction hasn't even started." Vanessa pouted. "Besides, I wanted to discuss the Hampton house. You never returned my calls." "Because I have nothing to discuss with you." "Don't be difficult." Vanessa touched his arm. Margot felt something ugly twist in her chest. "We were so good together. Remember Paris? I remember you stole my credit card and spent $40,000 on handbags. You said I could buy whatever I wanted. I was being polite. It's called conversation, not a binding contract." Margot bit back a laugh. Vanessa's eyes cut to her. "Something funny?" "Just impressed by the handbag budget," Margot said sweetly. "That's almost 3 years of my college tuition." Vanessa's smile turned venomous. "Let me guess. You're his latest charity case? How noble of him." "Actually, I work for him." "Oh." Vanessa laughed. "Oh, that's rich. Literally. You're the help." The word landed like a slap. Margot felt her face heat, but Dashiell moved before she could respond. "Careful, Vanessa." His voice was ice. "You're speaking about someone worth 1,000 of you." Vanessa blinked. "Excuse me?" Margot is intelligent, honest, and doesn't need to leech off anyone's fortune to matter. Each word cut like precision surgery. You, on the other hand, are a parasite with expensive taste. We're done here. He took Margot's hand and led her away, leaving Vanessa sputtering behind them. Outside, in the cool night air, Margot finally breathed. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." He still held her hand. Neither of them acknowledged it. She was out of line. "I can handle insults." "I know you can. Doesn't mean you should have to." He turned to face her. "And for the record, you're not the help. You're..." "I'm what?" The question hung between them. Traffic hummed. The city sparkled. And Dashiell looked at her like he was solving an impossible equation. "You're important," he said finally, "to the household." "Right, the household." But his hand was still in hers, and his thumb had started tracing small circles on her wrist, and his eyes were saying something entirely different from his words. "We should go," Margot whispered. "We should." Neither of them moved. "Margot, His phone buzzed. The spell broke. He stepped back, checking the screen, and his expression changed. "It's the hospital. Your father. There's been a complication." Her world tilted. "What?" "They need you there. Now." He was already moving toward the car. "Come on." As the limousine raced through the city, Margot's mind whirled with fear. But through it all, one thought anchored her. Dashiell's hand found hers in the darkness and held on tight. And he didn't let go. The hospital fluorescent lights were cruel and honest. They showed every fear on Margot's face as she ran through the emergency room doors, Dashiell close behind her. "I'm looking for Thomas Sinclair," she gasped to the nurse. "Room 347. "Third floor. He's stable now, honey." Stable. The word was oxygen. Margot's knees almost gave out. Dashiell's arm came around her waist, steadying her. "Come on, I've got you." They found her father sitting up in bed, looking exhausted but alive. So beautifully, wonderfully alive. Beatrice was already there, mascara smudged from crying. "Dad!" Margot rushed to his side. "I'm okay, sweetheart." Thomas squeezed her hand. "Just a scare. They said my blood pressure spiked, but they've got it under control now. You're supposed to be resting, taking your medication, not giving me heart attacks." Ironic, isn't it? He smiled weakly, then noticed Dashiell standing in the doorway. "And who's this? Margot? Did you come from a wedding?" Margot looked down at her $3,500 gown. "It's complicated." "I'm Dashiell Hargrave," Dashiell said, stepping forward. "Margot works for me." Thomas's eyes widened. "The Dashiell Hargrave, the one from the business section?" "The very same." "And you brought my daughter to the hospital at—" He checked the clock. 9:30 on a Saturday night? "Dad, it's not—" Margot started. "She's an excellent employee," Dashiell said smoothly. "I couldn't let her take a cab in this state." Thomas studied him with the shrewd eyes of a father who'd raised a daughter alone for 28 years. "Uh-huh. And the fancy dress?" "Work event," Margot and Dashiell said simultaneously. Beatrice snorted from the corner. "Oh, this is good." 2 hours later, after doctors confirmed Thomas was stable and would stay overnight for observation, Margot finally breathed. Dashiell had disappeared at some point, probably back to his mansion, back to his world of ice and isolation. She couldn't blame him. This wasn't his problem. "He seems intense," Thomas said when they were alone. "That's a generous word for it." "But he cares about you." Margot's head snapped up. "What?" "No, Dad, he's my employer, that's all." "Margot, I may be old and sick, but I'm not blind." Her father's smile was gentle. "That man looked at you like you hung the moon. And you looked at him the same way." "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" He squeezed her hand. "Sweetheart, when your mother died, I thought I'd never feel anything again. I built walls so high, I forgot what sunlight felt like." His eyes grew distant. "Don't make my mistakes. If someone makes you feel alive, don't run from it because it's scary." "Dad, I'm not saying marry the guy. I'm saying don't dismiss something real just because it's inconvenient." He yawned. "Now go home. You look exhausted. That dress costs more than my car, and you're wrinkling it." Margot kissed his forehead. "I love you." "Love you too, kiddo. And Margot, thank him for me." She found Dashiell in the hospital cafeteria, staring at a cup of coffee that had probably gone cold an hour ago. He'd removed his bow tie and unbuttoned his collar. He looked human, tired, real. "You're still here," Margot said. He looked up. "Where else would I be?" "Home. This isn't your responsibility." "No." He stood. "But you are." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. "My responsibility," he corrected quickly. "As your employer. I'm responsible for your well-being." "It's just practical." "Right, practical." Margot sat down across from him. "Dashiell, why did you really stay?" For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "Because 3 years ago, I got a call about Victoria. Car accident. By the time I got to the hospital, she was gone." His voice was raw. "I was alone. No one stayed with me. No one held my hand while the world ended." He finally met her eyes. "I couldn't let you be alone." Margot's heart cracked open. Dashiell, don't. He stood abruptly. Don't make this into something it's not. I did what any decent person would do. You're not just any decent person. No, I'm your boss. And you're my employee. That's the line. But he didn't sound convinced. Is it? Margot stood, moving closer. Because it didn't feel like an employer-employee relationship when you defended me to Vanessa. Or when you held my hand in the car. Or when you stayed here for 3 hours instead of going home. Margot, stop. Why? Because you're scared? Because feeling something would mean Victoria's memory isn't the only thing you're allowed to have. You don't understand? Then explain it to me. Her voice broke. Explain why you push everyone away. Why you hired 9 housekeepers in 2 months. Why you live in that beautiful empty mansion like it's a mausoleum. Because it's easier. The words exploded out of him. Because if I don't feel anything, I can't lose anything. If I don't let anyone in, they can't leave. They can't die and take half my soul with them. Tears streamed down Margot's face. That's not living. That's just existing. It's surviving. It's not enough. She grabbed his hand. Dashiell, you deserve more than just survival. You deserve to be happy. To feel something other than grief and anger. And what if I let myself feel? His voice was barely a whisper. What if I let you in, and then I lose you too? I can't. His voice broke. I can't do that again, Margot. I can't. She reached up, cupping his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. You won't lose me. You don't know that. No, but I know that I'm not going anywhere. She smiled through her tears. You hired me, remember? I'm contractually obligated to stick around and make your life difficult. He laughed, a broken, beautiful sound. You're insane. So you keep saying. They stood there in the empty cafeteria, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, still wearing their gala clothes. It was the least romantic setting imaginable. And yet, Margot, He stopped, struggling with words. I don't know how to do this. How to let someone matter again. Then we'll figure it out together. She squeezed his hands. No expectations. No pressure, just let me stay. Not as your employee. As your friend. Friend, he repeated, like testing the word. For now. She smiled. We'll see where it goes. He pulled her into his arms then, holding her like she was the only solid thing in a shifting world. And Margot held him back, feeling his heart race against hers. Thank you, he whispered into her hair, for not giving up on me. Never. They stayed like that until the dawn began breaking through the cafeteria windows, painting everything in shades of gold and possibility. And somewhere in that embrace, the walls around Dashiell Hargrave's heart began to crumble. Everything changed, and nothing changed. Margot still arrived at 6 a.m. Dashiell still pretended to read the newspaper while stealing glances at her. But now, when their hands brushed passing the coffee pot, neither of them pulled away quite as quickly. Your father's being discharged today, Dashiell said over breakfast, 3 days after the hospital. Yes, Beatrice is picking him up. Margot paused. How did you know? I called to check. He said it casually, like he didn't just admit to caring. And I've arranged for a visiting nurse, 3 times a week until the surgery. Margot's fork clattered to her plate. You did what? Your father needs monitoring. The nurse is qualified, discreet, and already paid for. He turned a page. It's handled. Dashiell, I can't accept. It's not a gift. Consider it an advance on your salary. Finally, he looked at her. Let me do this. Please. That word, please, from Dashiell Hargrave's mouth. Margot's defenses crumbled. Thank you, she whispered. You're welcome. He almost smiled. Besides, if you're worrying about your father, you're useless to me here. There's the heartless boss I know. I prefer pragmatic. but his eyes were warm. Now, about Friday's dinner party. The doorbell rang. Both of them froze. No one just showed up at the Hargrave mansion. Helena appeared, looking flustered. "Sir, your sister is here." "Tell her I've died." "I can hear you, Dash," a woman's voice echoed through the foyer. "And I'm coming in whether you like it or not." Moments later, a whirlwind in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater burst into the dining room. Juliet Hargrave was petite, blonde, and radiated the kind of chaotic energy that made Margot instantly like her. "So you're the miracle worker?" Juliet studied Margot with undisguised delight. "The woman who's lasted more than 3 days. I'm Juliet, the favorite sibling." "Only sibling," Dashiell muttered. "Therefore favorite." Juliet grinned. "Margot, right? We spoke on the phone. You told me Dash had moved to Antarctica." "I was following instructions." "Oh, I like her." Juliet turned to her brother. "She's smart, beautiful, and has survived your charming personality for 2 weeks. When's the wedding?" Juliet, "What?" "I'm just saying. Victoria would have—" She stopped, face paling. "Dash, I'm sorry, I didn't mean— It's fine." His voice was tight. "What do you want? Can't I visit my brother? You live in Boston. You hate unexpected travel, and you're fidgeting, which means you want something." Dashiell leaned back. "Out with it," Juliet sighed. "Fine. Mom's having her annual Christmas gala. She's demanding you attend." "No." "Dash." "I said no. I haven't been to a family event in 3 years. I'm not starting now." "She's your mother." "She's a woman who cares more about appearances than people." Dashiell stood. "I have work to do." "She's dying." The words stopped him cold. Margot watched the color drain from his face. "What?" "Stage 3 ovarian cancer." Juliet's voice broke. "She didn't want to tell you. Pride, you know. But Dash, the doctors say 6 months, maybe less." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "This might be her last Christmas. Please, come to the gala. Pretend for one night that we're a normal family." Dashiell stood frozen, a statue carved from shock and pain. Margot made a decision. "He'll be there." Both siblings stared at her. "Margot," Dashiell started. "You'll be there," she repeated firmly, looking only at him. "Because life is short, and regret lasts forever. Because she's your mother, and you love her even if you're both too stubborn to admit it." She softened. "And because I'll go with you. You won't have to do this alone." "You don't have to." "I know." She held his gaze. "But I want to. Friends, remember? Friends show up." Something passed between them then. Understanding, gratitude, something deeper that neither was ready to name. Juliet watched the exchange with barely contained glee. "Oh, you two are adorable." "Jules." Fine, I'll leave." She kissed Dashiell's cheek. "The gala's the 20th. Black tie. And Dash?" She squeezed his hand. "Thank you. Mom will be happy." After she left, silence filled the dining room. Dashiell stared out the window, jaw tight. "You didn't have to volunteer for that," he said finally. "I know. My family is—" He struggled for words. "Complicated, cold, nothing like yours. All families are complicated." Margot moved closer. "But she's your mother. You should see her, while you still can. She'll criticize everything. My career choices, my life, you. Then I'll just have to be extra charming." She bumped his shoulder. "Besides, I've handled you for 2 weeks. How bad can she be?" He laughed. Actually laughed. "You have no idea what you've signed up for. Then it's good I'm brave, or stupid, possibly both." Dashiell turned to face her, and his expression made her breath catch. "Why do you do this?" "Do what?" "Push your way past every wall I build. Make me feel things I swore I'd never feel again." His voice was raw. "Make me want things I have no right to want." Margot's heart hammered. What do you want? He stepped closer, then closer still, until mere inches separated them. I want... He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her cheek. I want to stop pretending this is just friendship. Then stop pretending. Margot, if we cross this line... I know. Everything changes. She covered his hand with hers. But maybe that's not a bad thing. I'm damaged goods. Broken. I'll probably hurt you. You won't. You don't know that. Then we'll figure it out. Together. She smiled. That seems to be our thing. He studied her face like memorizing a map. You're infuriatingly optimistic. And you're impossibly stubborn. We're a disaster waiting to happen. Probably. She leaned closer. But I'm willing to risk it if you are. For a moment, Dashiell Hargrave, the man who calculated every risk, controlled every variable, did something completely reckless. He kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she might disappear. But when Margot kissed him back, threading her fingers through his hair, pulling him closer, something broke open in both of them. The kiss deepened. Years of loneliness and walls and careful control shattered. This was need and hope and the terrifying vulnerability of letting someone matter. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dashiell rested his forehead against hers. "We're really doing this," he whispered. "We're really doing this. I don't know how to be someone's boyfriend. I'll mess this up. Good thing I'm patient." She kissed him again, quick and sweet. "We'll take it slow. Figure it out as we go." "Slow," he agreed. Then he kissed her again, and there was nothing slow about it. Helena walked in, saw them, and quietly backed out with a knowing smile. It was about damn time. The week before the Christmas gala was chaos wrapped in tinsel and tension. Dashiell became impossible, snapping at contractors, reorganizing his schedule 3 times, and generally acting like a man preparing for battle rather than a family party. "You're spiraling," Margot said, finding him in his study at midnight, surrounded by paperwork he was pretending to read. "I'm working. You're panicking." She closed the door behind her. "Talk to me." "There's nothing to talk about." But his hands were shaking slightly. "I'm fine. Dashiell." She moved around the desk, turning his chair to face her. "You haven't been fine since Juliet told you about your mother, and that's okay. You're allowed to be scared." "I'm not scared." "Liar." He glared at her. Then suddenly the fight drained out of him. "She's dying, Margot. My mother is dying, and the last thing I said to her was that I never wanted to see her again." "When was that?" "Victoria's funeral." His voice cracked. "Mom said I needed to move on. That Victoria wouldn't want me to stop living. And I told her she knew nothing about love or loss. That she was incapable of real emotion." He dropped his head into his hands. "I haven't spoken to her since." Margot's heart broke. She knelt in front of him, taking his hands. "Then this is your chance to fix it. What if it's too late? What if she hates me? She's your mother. She doesn't hate you." Margot squeezed his fingers. "She's probably just as scared and stubborn as you are." "It's genetic." Despite everything, he smiled. "You think you're funny. I think I'm delightful." She stood, tugging him up. "Come on, you need sleep." "I need to finish." Dash. She used the nickname for the first time. His eyes widened. "Sleep. Everything else can wait." He let her lead him upstairs to his bedroom, the same room where she'd bandaged his hand weeks ago. It felt like a lifetime ago. "Stay," he said quietly. "Please, just stay with me." Margot should have hesitated, should have considered boundaries and professionalism. Instead, she kicked off her shoes and climbed onto the bed beside him. Dashiell pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not running away when you saw how broken I am." "You're not broken." She traced patterns on his chest. "You're healing. There's a difference." They fell asleep tangled together, and for the first time in 3 years, Dashiell's nightmares stayed away. The Hargrave estate in Connecticut was everything Margot expected. Massive, elegant, and cold enough to preserve meat. Christmas decorations sparkled everywhere, but they felt sterile, beautiful, expensive, and utterly lifeless. "Breathe," Margot whispered as they walked toward the entrance. Dashiell looked devastating in his tuxedo and absolutely terrified. "I can't do this." "Yes, you can." She squeezed his hand. "I'm right here." The door opened before they could knock. Juliet appeared, radiant in red silk. "You came! I honestly bet Jules you'd bail." "Jules is your husband," Dashiell said dryly. "You bet against yourself." "Semantics." She hugged him fiercely. "Mom's in the ballroom. She doesn't know you're coming. I wanted it to be a surprise." "Ambush, you mean? Potato. Juliet winked at Margot. "You look stunning, by the way. Ready to meet the dragon lady?" "Jules." "What?" "She calls herself that." Juliet linked arms with Margot. "Come on. Let's get this reunion started." The ballroom was filled with Connecticut's elite, politicians, CEOs, old money in designer gowns, and in the center, holding court like a queen, was Eleanor Hargrave. She was smaller than Margot expected, thin, too thin, with sharp cheekbones and eyes the same glacial blue as Dashiell's. Despite the obvious illness, she radiated authority. "Juliet, darling, who are your—" Eleanor turned and froze. "Dashiell. Mother." The silence was deafening. Everyone in the vicinity stopped talking. "You came," Eleanor said faintly. "I came. I didn't think." She faltered, and for a moment, she looked fragile. "Human. I didn't think I'd see you again." "Neither did I." Dashiell's voice was tight. "But apparently, I'm full of surprises." Eleanor's gaze shifted to Margot. "And who is this?" "Margot Sinclair," Margot said, extending her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Hargrave." "Sinclair." Eleanor's handshake was firm despite her frailty. "Irish?" "On my father's side." "And you're here with my son because I asked her to be," Dashiell said firmly. "Margot is important to me." Eleanor's eyebrows rose. "Important." How refreshingly vague. But her eyes softened slightly. "Well, any woman who can get my son to a family event deserves a medal. Welcome, my dear." The tension eased. Slightly. "Dashiell, might I speak with you? Privately?" Eleanor asked. Every muscle in his body tensed. Margot touched his arm. "I'll be right here." He nodded and followed his mother to a quiet corner. Margot watched them go, her heart in her throat. "He really cares about you," Juliet said softly beside her. "I care about him too. I can tell. You're good for him." Juliet smiled. "He's been dead inside since Victoria. But with you, he's alive again." 15 minutes later, Dashiell returned. His eyes were red, but his shoulders looked lighter. "Everything okay?" Margot asked. She apologized. He sounded stunned. She said she was wrong. That grief makes people say terrible things. That she understood why I pushed her away. He swallowed hard. And she said she's glad I found someone who makes me happy. She's right, you know. About what? You do look happy. Margot smiled. Terrified, but happy. That's your fault. I'll accept that blame. She stood on tiptoes, kissing his cheek. Dance with me? I don't dance. You do tonight. On the dance floor, surrounded by strangers and family, Dashiell held Margot like she was the only solid thing in the universe. I love you, he whispered against her hair. Margot pulled back, eyes wide. What? I love you. He said it louder, clearer. I'm in love with you, Margot Sinclair. I probably have been since you refused to leave my study that first day, since you bandaged my hand and didn't flinch from my damage. since you made me remember what it feels like to be human. Tears streamed down her face. Dashiell, you don't have to say it back. I know it's fast. I know I'm a mess. But I needed you to know. He cupped her face. You saved me. In every way a person can be saved. You idiot. She laughed through her tears. I love you too. I love your impossible standards, and your terrible coffee tests, and the way you pretend not to care when you care so much it hurts. She kissed him. I love all of you. All of me is a lot of baggage. Good thing I'm excellent at organizing. He kissed her then, in front of his family and half of Connecticut society, and didn't care who saw. Eleanor watched from across the room, tears in her eyes, and smiled. Her son had finally come home. Later, outside in the snow, Dashiell pulled out a small box. This isn't a proposal, he said quickly. Not yet, but it's a promise. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a tiny house. For the woman who turned my mansion into a home, he said softly, who taught me that walls are meant to keep cold out, not people. Margot let him fasten it around her wrist, sobbing happily. It's perfect. You're perfect. I'm really not. Perfect for me, then. He pulled her close. Move in with me. Actually move in. Not as my housekeeper, as my partner, my girlfriend, my future. Yes, she whispered. Yes to all of it. Above them, snow fell like a benediction, and inside, through the ballroom windows, Eleanor Hargrave watched her son hold the woman who'd performed the impossible. She'd melted the ice around his heart. 3 months later, spring arrived with the kind of hope that makes you believe in new beginnings. Thomas Sinclair's surgery was scheduled for April 15th. Margot hadn't slept properly in days, and Dashiell had practically moved his entire office into the hospital waiting room. You don't have to be here, Margot said for the 100th time, clutching his hand like a lifeline. Yes, I do. He kissed her temple. Where else would I be? Beatrice arrived with coffee and Helena with sandwiches nobody would eat. Even Juliet had flown in from Boston. They'd become Margot's family in the month since Christmas, loud, chaotic, and exactly what she needed. Sinclair family? A surgeon appeared, still in scrubs. Everyone stood. The surgery was successful, she said, and Margot's knees gave out. Dashiell caught her. He's in recovery. Strong heart, strong will. He should make a full recovery. Margot sobbed into Dashiell's chest while everyone cheered. Her father was going to be okay. Everything was going to be okay. 2 weeks later, Thomas was released from the hospital with strict orders to rest. Dashiell had insisted he recover at the mansion, in one of the 8 guest rooms that had stood empty for years. I can't possibly, Thomas had protested. You absolutely can, Dashiell said firmly. Margot needs you close. I need Margot happy. Therefore, you're staying. It's simple logic. He's very bossy, Thomas told his daughter. I know. It's charming after a while. If you say so. But Thomas stayed, and slowly, the mansion transformed. Thomas's laughter echoed through hallways that had known only silence. He taught Helena his famous lasagna recipe. He played chess with Dashiell in the library and consistently won, which delighted everyone. Your father is hustling me, Dashiell complained one evening. He was chess champion in college, Margot said innocently. Didn't I mention that? No, you deliberately didn't. Oops. He pulled her onto his lap. You're terrible. And you love me anyway. Inconveniently, yes. He kissed her. Speaking of which, I need to ask your father something. Ask him what? You'll see. His smile was mysterious. That night, Dashiell found Thomas on the terrace, enjoying the spring air. Mr. Sinclair, might I have a word? Only if you call me Thomas. We're past formalities, son. Dashiell sat, suddenly nervous. I want to marry your daughter. Thomas didn't even blink. I know. You know? Dashiell, you look at Margot like she's oxygen. You reorganized your entire life around her. You let a near stranger recover in your home. Thomas smiled. The only surprise is that you waited this long to ask. I wanted to do this right. Wait for your recovery. Ask your permission. You have it. Enthusiastically. Thomas gripped his hand. You make her happier than I've ever seen her. You gave her back her smile, and you gave me my life. You're already family. Dashiell's eyes burned. Thank you, sir. Thomas, just promise me one thing. Anything. Never stop looking at her the way you do now, like she's magic. That's easy, Dashiell said. She is. The proposal happened on a Tuesday because Dashiell had learned that the best moments aren't always planned. Margot was in the garden that now had roses again, because she'd insisted they were beautiful, and he'd discovered he couldn't deny her anything. She was laughing at something Helena had said, sunshine in her hair, and Dashiell's heart simply decided. Margot, she turned, smiling. Hey, you're home early. She stopped, seeing him on one knee. Dashiell? I had a speech planned, he said. Something eloquent about how you stormed into my life and refused to accept my walls. How you taught me that surviving isn't the same as living. How you make every day feel like coming home. He pulled out a ring, a simple diamond that caught the light like a promise. But the truth is simpler than that. I love you. I want forever with you. Will you marry me? Yes! She launched herself at him, knocking them both to the grass. Yes! Yes, yes! He slipped the ring on her finger, and they kissed, surrounded by roses and sunshine and the sound of Helena cheering from the kitchen window. I can't believe you proposed in jeans, Margot laughed. I couldn't wait for the perfect moment. You are the perfect moment. That was actually smooth. I've been practicing. He kissed her again. I love you, future Mrs. Hargrave. I love you too, you impossible man. From inside, they heard Thomas shout, About time! And everyone dissolved into laughter. 1 year later, the Hargrave mansion hadn't been quiet in exactly a year, and Dashiell wouldn't have it any other way. Sunday dinners were mandatory now. Thomas and Beatrice, Juliet and Jules, Helena and her husband Richard. The dining room that had once been a showpiece was now splattered with marinara sauce and filled with arguments about politics and laughter that shook the chandeliers. Eleanor had passed away peacefully 6 months after the Christmas gala, surrounded by family. Her last words to Dashiell were, You found your way back. I'm so proud of you. He'd held her hand until the end, and Margot had held him. The mansion now had color, Margot's doing. Throws on the couches, art that was personal rather than expensive, photographs everywhere. Their engagement photo. Thomas and Dashiell playing chess. Helena and Margot baking disaster cookies. And on the mantel, in a place of honor, 2 photographs, Victoria smiling in Paris, and Margot laughing in the garden, the past and the future, both loved, both remembered. Are you ready? Margot called from upstairs. For what? Dashiell was reviewing contracts in the study, his new study, smaller and warmer, because Margot had converted the old one into a library for everyone to share. She appeared in the doorway, glowing. Really? You forgot? He had definitely forgotten something. I'm being tested? Dashiell Hargrave. She crossed her arms, trying to look stern and failing. We're telling everyone today. Oh. He shot to his feet. It's time? She nodded, tears in her eyes, hands on her stomach. It's time. They'd found out 3 weeks ago, pregnant, 12 weeks along, due in October. They'd told no one, keeping the secret close and precious. But today, surrounded by family in the mansion that had become a home, they would share their joy. I'm going to be a father, Dashiell whispered, awed. You're going to be an amazing father. She kissed him. Are you scared? Terrified. Good, me too, she grinned. We'll figure it out together. That does seem to be our thing. Downstairs, their family waited. The dining room was chaos. Thomas arguing with Jules about baseball, Juliet stealing bites from everyone's plates, Helena orchestrating the meal like a conductor. Dashiell tapped his glass. Everyone quieted. "Margot and I have news," he said, and his voice only shook slightly. "We're pregnant." The room exploded. Thomas cried. Helena shrieked. Juliet was already planning the nursery. Everyone talked over everyone, and it was loud and messy and absolutely perfect. Later, when the chaos settled and everyone had left, Margot and Dashiell stood in the doorway, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold. "Can you believe we started here?" Margot asked. "You tried to make me quit after 3 days. Worst decision I almost made." He wrapped his arms around her, hands resting on her stomach. "You were supposed to be temporary, just another housekeeper. And now? Now you're everything." He kissed her hair. "My wife, my home, my whole heart. I love you, Dashiell Hargrave. I love you, Margot Hargrave." And in the mansion that had once been a mausoleum of grief, filled now with laughter and life and love, they held each other as the sun set on their beginning and rose on their forever. The end.